We took this blank resume and in 2 months turned it into this. Packaging fentanyl test strips for the community, supporting a radio show about substance abuse, doing research on drug overdoses globally, and volunteering at a student homeless shelter. This application stands out. And this is what it looks like now. In 2 more years, when this UCLA Premed applies to medical school, can you imagine what that resume will look like then? Today, I'll share why having a blank resume is actually the best thing you can do for your pre-med journey. We'll talk about what most pre-meds do wrong when building their resumes and the exact steps we took to build this student's cohesive, thematic, impactful narrative. All right, so today we are comparing 2 resumes before and after about 1 or 2 quarters at UCLA. This is a case study on one of our fantastic students, a young, bright-eyed freshman who we're very, very proud of to see the growth over the last 1 or 2 quarters. And we cannot imagine just what this applicants and the students will look like personally and professionally in the 2 years before she decides to apply. So we have a resume grading scale first and foremost that I'd like to walk you guys through. This is one part of our resume review protocol that we ask all of our mentors to learn, understand, and honestly help develop. And it comes in the 4 different flavors: level 0, level 1, and level 2, and level 3 resume. Level 0 resumes are ones that are essentially just starting, almost blank. Rising freshmen typically have this resume because most of their stuff are from high school, and most of that stuff becomes quite irrelevant when it comes to applying to medical school. Level 1 is when you have some basic generic extracurricular activities, things that you might have joined at the enormous activities fair that you're still kind of feeling out, things that you're not really sure if they are going to continue to make it on to your pre-med journey going forward. Level 2 there's some sort of narrative themes or pillars that are starting to sprout up, but there's no definitive wow factor. There is a lack of impact. There is a clear kind of sense that, okay, this person likes and enjoys these types of things. In the future, they may develop to this type of person, but right now we're still in an early stage where that pre-med is figuring themselves out. And then lastly, level 3 is someone who has a narrative, someone who's checked all the boxes with no red flags and has some sort of impact-based wow factor. Not only are they clear on who they are, but they are one of the world's best, or at least one of the best in the pre-med space at that specific theme, pillar, narrative, whether it's women's health or underserved communities or health policy or anything in between. That pre-med is clear on who they are, and they do a darn good job of making an impact in those spaces. So this is just one portion of the resume review protocol that we have our mentors trained upon. So next, we talk about applying those learnings and figuring out exactly how we take this level 0 resume, essentially a resume that's blank, right? There's nothing on here except for my notes and one activity that the applicant or the student has joined in her freshman year, fall quarter. And this is this project at UCLA. She's a part of the education committee, which seeks to promote the advancement of educational resources in a village in India. She helps writing and publishing a children's nutrition book and helps with the translations into that country's native language. And you can see there's a couple things that I know. There's a 4.0 to start, which is fantastic, but how confident is the student in maintaining that 4.0? Is that going to be a 4.0 for 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 10 quarters? Those things differ, right? And another thing that I want to make sure is very clear is I hate the terminology level 0, level 4, or level 3. I haven't found a better one to use, but it almost assumes that level 3 is much, much better than level 0, and that because of that, level 3 demonstrates that is a good resume, and level 0 is a really bad resume. But we're at just different stages, right? This level 0 is not good and it's not bad. It just happens to be where this student is right now. It helps us objectively determine where they are in their pre-med stage, and so we can figure out the exact next steps for a level 0, because a level 0 resume needs different direction than a level 1 resume. A level 1 resume needs different direction than a level 2 resume, right? If you're a level 0 resume as a freshman, you're actually in a perfect place. But if you're a level 0 resume as a junior ready to apply, then maybe you need a little bit more time to develop those resumes to be adequately competitive for your dream medical schools. I don't want to bring emotion into this. I don't want to bring identities into this. Where you are in your pre-med journey is not a reflection of how smart, dumb, lazy, productive, efficient. It has nothing to do with you and your identity. It just simply is where you are. And one big thing that I'm passionate about is taking away the emotion or the labeling of the things. You are not your GPA, you are not your resume, and you are not your MCAT score. Another good example to demonstrate that level 0 is actually a very positive thing, it's not a negative thing, is that when you have a blank CV, you have an open schedule. You have few competing commitments, right? This is the equivalent of how when you get older and you have a family and kids, now you have to take care of the house. Now you have to take care of your husband-wife relationship. Now you have your kids that are competing for your attention. So your bandwidth comes smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. But when you're at this stage, a level 0 resume with essentially a blank CV, you only have the responsibility of waking up, going to class, getting good grades. You don't have to show up to the hospital volunteering. You don't have to show up to the research lab. You don't have to show up to the extracurricular activities, the 4 or 5 of them that you're involved with, because those have not been fully developed. Those have not been committed to quite yet. In those situations, the world is our playground. We have all the decisions and all the opportunities, and we just need to make the data-driven decisions that are best for us. Busy does not mean better. If this entire CV was filled with a bunch of things that were not clear passions of the student, that the student was not making impacts in, that the student was not learning from or not enjoying, then even though it seems like it's a busier, more productive CV, it's actually a worse position to be in, because that level of busyness will take away from the opportunities that you can say yes to. Busy does not mean better. Busy just means busy. Busy just means you're spending more time doing things. Do those things actually get you into medical school is the key question, not how many hours you are spending in something. And so I was very happy to find that our student had joined only one activity. She said that her core goal was to make sure that her GPA was protected, which she did a fantastic job of, and to make sure that she only joined clubs that she enjoyed. And so she only joined one that she did enjoy, and everything else she left open for her fitness, for her friends, but also, of course, to consider other activities and opportunities as they arose. And so now we transition to a CV after one simple quarter. And you can see that we took advantage of the fact that this student had a blank canvas. We asked her exactly what it is that you care about. And 2 things continue to come out, right? She was very interested in addiction psychiatry, primarily substance use and substance abuse, and kind of what happens in the brain and what happens in people's lives that bring them to that situation. And a corollary or an adjacent population that often is tied closely to addiction and substance use is homelessness and the homeless population. So she wanted to spend some time with those people, understanding their stories, getting on the ground with them to really understand who they are and why they are in the position they are in. And so you can see this is the same opportunity in that fall quarter or winter quarter that she joined. This GPA has continued to be protected. So she is still recognizing that she can do those things and add on top of that. Instead of trying to pile everything at once, she's taking things 1 or 2 steps at a time, guaranteeing in her mind that she can take care of it, and then adding things on top of that only after she feels secure in those things. Every year, over 50,000 pre-meds apply to medical school, and over 60% don't get into a single one. If this video hasn't been completely trashed thus far, I highly encourage you to take a look at the free resources we have in our description box below. Click the link in the description box to find out more, and for now, let's go back to the video. You see there's another bullet point here where she's working on creating a youth leadership initiative that provides the high schoolers of this village in India leadership roles and opportunities to personally and professionally develop themselves. This means a ton for me because our role is to personally and professionally develop her. And I think she's starting to see the importance of that and using how she is growing and the fact that she is growing with us, using that privilege and conveying that to other people that she has the privilege of being a role model for. Now you'll see that we added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Really, these two are connected. So 4 key opportunities over the last quarter or two. You'll see that one of them starts a little bit later on in the year, and then these two she earned in that last quarter. So this is an organization where she ended up starting as a volunteer and now has progressed to be the data coordinator for an overdose organization. What they do is increase awareness on the use of fentanyl test strips and naloxone. These fentanyl test strips are used out in the community to ensure that the substances that you are using, if you are partaking in drugs and things of this sort, are not laced with dangerous levels of fentanyl or other opioids that may cause you to overdose. Naloxone is a treatment that we often use in the hospital for patients that get too much opioid, but it is a life-saving drug out in the community for people who take a little bit too much or take substances that had too much or much more than they expected when it comes to opioids and things like that, and how to respond in emergency situations. So she's working on a community engagement, educational type role here. She's also working in a logistical role here where she's actually packing these test strips and getting them onto different places on campus and in the community. And there's kind of a media role here too, where she's working on a radio show segment, and guest speakers who are experts in substance abuse get to speak about their experience. And you can see just how specific this opportunity is for her interests in addiction, substance use, and homelessness. This is not your run-of-the-mill organization that you find at the Enormous Activities Fair or on a email newsletter or on a flyer that's passed to you on your way to lunch. This is an opportunity that we sought out because it overlaps so specifically with her interests and makes a ton of sense for her story, her narrative, and what she cares about. We targeted this experience, which is something that pre-meds, I think, overlook. They hope that something is going to fall out of the sky into their two hands and it'll be a perfect situation for them. But really, they have to take active responsibility and empower themselves to have the agency to go out and find the extracurricular activities and the opportunities that are a perfect fit for them. This is an example of taking advantage of the blank space that our student had and replacing it with something that was perfectly suited for her. And we didn't stop there. That was one opportunity that we landed over the 2 or 3 week outreach campaign that we did. Another opportunity was a research position where she worked in the Department of Behavioral and Addiction Medicine, screening papers for a systematic review of global fentanyl overdoses. It is no accident that this research is in line with her work as the data coordinator of this overdose community organization. I always say that it is no accident that you will get into your dream medical school. You will get there after making the right data-driven decisions that are in alignment with the things that you care about, the things that you're passionate about, because those things will be easier for you to spend more time on. And when you spend more time, it'll be easier for you to develop the skills that are necessary to make an impact in your chosen profession or your chosen passion. This research paper overlaps directly and gives her a research angle that's different, but also adds to the education in the media, also adds to the educational community outreach role, also adds to the logistical working with people, distributing test strips and naloxone role that she has with the overdose organization. Next, we have a research assistant with the integrated substance abuse programs. This is a PI that's returning in June. And so she is going to start working in that lab. I believe it's more of a basic science lab. So I'm very excited for her to get a little bit more of a retrospective review, systematic review, kind of accumulating the research and summarizing it and aggregating it all. This is a community outreach education position, and this is more of a basic science role where you're really learning about the neural circuits, the psychology of addiction using mouse models, rat models, and things of that sort. This is her new position in the overdose organization. I think after spending 6 months as the data coordinator, she'll be transitioning and working in a different arm of that organization as the outreach intern. So you'll see now that we're starting to get a horizontal change of perspective where we started focusing in as a volunteer. Now we escalated a little bit and now we're the data coordinator. We excelled in that role working on these 3 initiatives here. And then now we're moving horizontally into a different perspective shift on the same problem. And now we're going to work on outreach and operations, maybe dialing a little bit deeper on doing a better job facilitating the resources out into the actual community, maybe tracking their use, maybe getting more outreach to make sure that media outlets and fundraisers and other big organizations in the nation are also aware of the great work that this organization does, but also just developing a new skill set, all the things that she can use to affect and really make an impact in this problem of opioid overdose. Lastly, she's joined and was admitted to a competitive organization on campus as a member of the shelter staff. This is a student-run shelter that offers a home, I believe, for students experiencing homelessness. I believe they offer things like social work to help them get insurance, health insurance, help them get access to kind of finances for school and for other necessary living expenses. And then, of course, most importantly, gives them a place to stay as they're figuring things out with their family, with their finances, with their home and work, all while juggling kind of the rigors of college. She's a member of the shelter staff. And the reason someone so young in her position, someone with a resume that looked like this, that looked like that, was able to get into one of the most competitive roles on campus, is that her resume started to move in the right direction, and the folks at that shelter, I completely believe, started to recognize that this was a person on the precipice of really, really, really developing the skills to make a large impact in the homeless, addiction, substance abuse kind of area. And so they wanted to be a part of her journey. She wanted to be a part of their organization, and it was a picture perfect match made in heaven. This all happened in the span of 1 or 2 quarters, really in the span of 4 to 6 weeks, as we dialed down what it was that were going to be her zones of genius, as we dialed down who else on campus were doing basic science research, meta-analysis, systematic review research, clinical work, community outreach, education and media, all these different ways and facets of approaching the opioid epidemic or approaching the problem of homelessness in Los Angeles. Those are all the people that we reached out to. We spent a long time writing emails that were quality and demonstrated our interest as to why we wanted to spend time here. And in 2 quarters, you can see that blank CV is changing immediately before your eyes. Can you imagine what this experience would look like, the overdose organization looks like in 2 years, when not only now does she have experience as the data and progress coordinator, but now as the outreach and operations intern, and eventually in more executive and larger roles and responsibilities in the organization. As that continues to grow, her skills will continue to grow, her responsibilities will continue to grow. And then you will have a student who has an undeniable level of impact in this space. As these 2 research positions go and concurrently, and she's working on the systematic reviews, and she gets more roles and responsibilities in larger projects, things that she can lead and eventually train other undergrads who are interested in the same thing to help her with these projects, while concurrently working on the basic sciences and learning what it's like to pipette and work with mice and work with rats and work with data like that. You can start to see that with time, this application is inevitable. It is inevitable. We take these experiences working with real people, and now maybe instead of working with students experiencing homelessness, we're working with veterans who experience homelessness. We're working in a different capacity. There's so many infinite options, even in this tiny little niche of addiction and substance use and homelessness. It's not stem cell research, or it's not it's not underserved populations, which are things even much broader. This is a very specific niche that means something near and dear to her. And I'm very excited that with time, all of these skills will develop, all these roles and responsibilities will escalate, and it will all still do so in the purview of that zone of genius. She will have a lane that she competes in that no one else in the country can compete in. If your entire application demonstrates your excellence in caring about this problem and this population, there's no one else in the country, no other pre-meds that you can be compared to. But if you have a resume that is all around the place, I'm looking at Model UN and National Honor Society and some music organization, some hospital volunteering, maybe you're a scribe and then you're an EMT, and then you do some, natural biology, plant biology research, and you have a 4.0 GPA, 520 MCAT. That is very impressive and was very hard to get to. I know, and I can guarantee that you've been working your butt off for the last 3 years. Unfortunately, I can also say it's not competitive, especially in today's culture of medical school admissions, because there are thousands of pre-meds that not only have a 4.0 GPA, they have more of an MCAT than you, a 528, a 527, a 525, 522, and they have a CV that is thematically aligned and is not so random, kind of a smothering, a hodgepodge of different activities on campus. It's a targeted, pointed representation of who that pre-med is. I cannot compete on the 4.0 528 MCAT, and I think that I have proven that you don't need to compete with that. There are 8 medical school applications on our application database that demonstrates that you can get into your dream medical school, and perhaps you will get into your dream medical school if you avoid playing the numbers game. Get the numbers that are as best as you can, and also recognize that that is just to get your foot in the door. To earn the seat in medical school, especially your dream medical school, it has to look like this, where you are a category of one and you are not able to be compared to other people because you operate in your lane, in your niche, and you are world class in that space. Looking at one thing from different perspectives, and most importantly, making an impact in all of your roles and responsibilities before you transition to the next one, where you take those skills and go even deeper into the problem. Must I remind you, this is a freshman, and I'm very excited to see what her life looks like as a sophomore and eventually as a junior. And can you imagine what her life looks like if she takes one gap year to work at the NIH, possibly in the, opioid epidemic branch or division of the United States government, a big role or a big responsibility, and she would be perfect for a position like that. All right, guys, hopefully you learned just how little of time it takes to really change your resume around. However, I also hope you appreciate the level of nuance and the decision making that is required to make a level 0 resume start to really pop to that level 1.5, level 2, and level 3 types of resumes that get you into your dream medical school. I'll see you in the next one. I hope that you learned something for this, and have a great rest of your day.
If you loved how we transformed this pre-med's resume from blank to standing out in 2 months, you'll really love this full resume breakdown. This student earned multiple top 20 acceptances and is now at a top 5 medical school. There's so much to learn from all the things that she did fantastically. That video is here, and I will see you over there.